Hi, you're tuned into the Raging Aggron Channel, and I'm your host, Djingis, and I'm here with our first home conference draft recap, and this time it's the Ruby division. And we have 4 teams in this division as well, of course, and we have the Houston Galates, the Salt Lake City Weasels, Chicago Tornadoes, and Louisville Crowbats. And this can be a very, very hard division to say anything about, really. Because there's 4 very good battlers in here, and we have one battler that's just keep getting better and better and better every single time. So I really look forward to watch out how this division will form. But first out, we have the Houston Galates, and this team is scary. Garchomp, Scissor, Komao, Empoleon, Alolan Raichu, Glaceon, Mega Godvar, Gengar, Volcanion, Umbreon, Tyrantrum, Shattered. Triple Dragons. Don't you just love that? But yeah, this team is scary as hell. It hits like a truck from the physical side and from the special side. You have maybe the best bulk you can get for this team in Umbreon. Glaceon can be pretty bulky, same with Empoleon, but Umbreon is the good bulk here. And Scissor is interesting to have on the team. You don't share a lot of common weaknesses outside of Ice for Garchomp, Komao, and Tyrantrum. And in some aspects you could say that Ice also counts for Shadow. But you have Empoleon to 4 times resist it, you have Glaceon that eats them no problem, and Volcanion laughs at it, so it's not really a big problem. Volt Beam is the big problem for this team in my opinion, because the special defense is so heavy that it should be almost every single Pokemon should be able to eat it. The big problem here, though, is the dual typings every single time. You have three dragons, you have 2 steels, I think, only 2 steels, yeah. And then you have 2 psychics, you have 2 waters, and I think that's about it, but it's still, it's a lot of dual typings for a team. That's the only problem I have with it, but it's a good team overall. It has interesting speed tiers, to say the least. With 110 being the fastest, but at the same time being able to take care of taking advantage of Search Surfer when it's electric terrain up can actually help Alolan Raichu a lot. We also have the possibility to run very good Scarfers, and since this division, since this team hits like a track from both physical and special side, it will be a very, very hard thing for your opponent to actually take hits every single time from you, and you will wear down the opponent pretty easy. You have Defog on Empoleon, and you might have Defog on Shadow. That's about it for hazard removal. And you only have Empoleon to set Stealth Rocks. Well, you have Scissor, Garchomp, and Empoleon to set Stealth Rocks most of the time. And Tyrantrum, but most of the time you will only see them on Empoleon. The only thing that I can see as a bit of a problem here outside of the dual typings every single time is actually the lack of base 80s. You have 1 base 80 Pokemon, and that is Komao at base 85. The rest of Pokemon is lower than 80. Or higher than 90, like way higher than 90. So it's a bit of a problem. Looking at that, because then you will have to be forced to run Dragon Dance Komao or Scarf Komao every single week, unless you decide to do some other crazy stuff with your remaining Pokemon. You can always run Scarf and Garchomp, like that's pretty common used. But it's an interesting team to say the least, and that's like the big problem here. That's the big speed gap between 65 and 91. With only 1 Pokemon in between that speed gap. But it's an interesting team to say the least. I don't know if he will do any trades. I hope he does, because that triple dragon is pretty annoying to deal with. It really has to make you very, very very weak overall. Even if you have an Empoleon can't take everything. Same with Scissor, they can't take everything. And Umbreon is also pretty weak. Like your team's overall pretty weak to Fairy, and that's not the best. Next up, we have the Salt Lake City Weasels and Coach SV. SV's team will be a problem for everyone to deal with. Manaphy, Florges, Galvantula, Alolan Marowak, Cryogonal, Rampardos, Megalophony, Nidoking, Noivern, Kartana, Alolan Persian, and Hypno. This team has defoggers that is unorthodox, more or less. You have the regular with Florges and Cryogonal, and even Cryogonal is a bit of a stretch, but you have Noivern and Kartana as well as defoggers. You also have a very physically offensive core with Rampardos, Megalophony, Kartana, Nidoking, even if Nidoking will be special, I know guys, but looking at the base stats. You also have the Thick Club Alolan Marowak to just destroy things, and to pair up with the Thick Club Alolan Marowak to actually help it outspeed things. Same with Rampardos and Hypno. You suddenly have webs from Galvantula. The only problem is that the only way of acid removal outside of Rapid Spin Cryogonal is to defog his own webs away, and that is pretty bad. But every single team that has a Manaphy that can set up Rain, see Rain Dance, and that can abuse Tail Glow and Scald and Ice Beam is a bit of a problem. And then you have Megalophony as well. Like, Megalophony in webs is disgusting. Like, I don't think anything that isn't levitated can outspeed it after that, no matter what scarf you have. The only problem I can see with this team is that the Alolan Persian and the Hypno might not have enough bulk to actually help out the team, or enough offensive pressure to actually help out the team. So this team could easily just be a 10 Pokemon team, and that is a bit of a problem unless you really are used to use Alolan Persian and Hypno. That's the big problem for this team, as I see it. The speeds doesn't really matter. The speeders are great, by the way, for me, but it doesn't really matter since you have webs on Galvantula. And if you don't use the webs on Galvantula, then you actually have pretty good speeders to bounce back on. So it's not like you have to choose, shall I go Scarf or shall I go webs, or do I need a webs or anything like that. You can do a lot of things with this team without having it reliant on webs. And of course, Agility Lopen is always a thing. Rock Polish Rampardos is always a thing. So there's some things you can do here. The only thing that I see as a bit of a problem is the special attacking. You have Manaphy and you have Florges, you have Galvantula, and you have Noivern. That is your special attacking core. Of course, Cryogonal as well. I missed that one. But those 5 are your special attackers. And you have one Pokemon that is... Well, you have one Pokemon that can set up with Manaphy, and then you have 2 Pokemons that are higher than base 100 in Manaphy and Florges. The rest is lower than 100, and they are not good setup Pokemons. That becomes a bit of a problem for your team prep, and it will be a problem when you play the games as well. But other than that, this is a very scary team to face, just thanks to the webs Megalophony core, and then have wall breaks like Rampardos and Alolan Marowak together with Kartana to actually take use of the gain speed. But with that being said, let's go over to the next team, and that is the Chicago Tornadoes with the true Slop Popper King as their coach. And here we see some interesting bulk choices that could work very, very well together. You have Ash Greninja, Toxapex, Kyurem, Gardevoir, Regirock, Crustle, Megastelix, Cresselia, Conkeldurr, Druddigon, Celebi, and Incineroar. This is a team that can be a lot of things. It can not. The only thing that it can't be is fast. This team is very, very bulky. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 Pokemon that is under base 60 in speed. And then you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 that is higher than base 18 speed. And there is a problem with that. Your team will be very, very slow, and you will take a lot of damage. The only good thing is that you have the bulk to take the damages, but your bulk cannot deal enough damage back, so it will be worthwhile. And your physical offensive power is so much better than your special offensive power, even if Ash Greninja, Kyurem, and Gardevoir makes up for that lack of special attack together with Celebi. The physical attack is still so much higher overall, and that means that your team can be pretty loop-sided and pretty easy to build for. even if the team you're facing can't really take every single hit that you have, it is still a problem. Like that's a common theme among all of these 3 teams. It's like they are pretty loop-sided when it comes to the attack that they can use. If it's a special attacking team or physical attacking team, you'll have to really carefully choose what type of moves or what types of EVs to use in Pokemons. And that can make this division very interesting to follow. Overall, I don't have a big of a problem with this team, except for that is the bulk it has is too passive and it doesn't deal enough damage. You will have to rely a lot of toxic spikes and toxic. You will have to rely a lot of hazards overall, and you have to rely on not get the defogged or spinning against you. And I don't think we have a rapid spinning Mega Steelix. That's your only rapid spinner. And I think that you have 1 defogger. That's about it. And then you have Ash Greninja, which, as we've seen in Season 1 of the PSL and PWL, it's very hard to use it. In Draft League format, it took Levity 5 or 6 weeks to finally start to really understand the basics of Ash Greninja. And I know for me it would have taken at least 12 weeks to most of the season before I actually understood how to use Ash Greninja. And that's a big problem when it comes to Draft League format. That if you're not familiar with the Pokemon and how they work in Draft League format, they will not be as good as it will be on the ladder. So Ash Greninja is a great Pokemon on the ladder, but in Draft League format it might not be that good. With that said, like, this is a very passive team, very physically offensive based, and it will be very hard for him to do anything outside of the box with this team. He would have to do a lot of trades and all of his free agencies pretty soon if he wants to have a chance to reach playoffs, unless he's a way better battler than everyone thought. Let's go over to the last team, and I will try to pronounce this right again for you, Mutafan. This is Louisville Crobats. I think I got it right this time at least. Louisville Crobats. This team has some interesting Pokemons to say the least. I like the Fire Dragon Steel core. I love the Fire Water Grass core, if you take away the first water that will come out. And you also have a good amount of immunities, not immunities, resistances to Earthquake, and also an immunity. So your team can actually work pretty well, even if the EQ is a bit of a problem overall for a team. You have Victini, Azumarill, Jolteon, Machamp, Vikavolt, Lapras, Mega Blastoise, Tangrowth, Lucario, Haxorus, Pissy, and Espeon. Whew! Okay, to start off with, Victini can be anything you want it to be, more or less. You can run it so many different ways. Azumarill, Belly Drum, Sweep. Even if I'm no fan of Azumarill, it does actually fit very well on this team. The Fairy Dragon Steel core with Azumarill, Lucario, and Haxorus is really good in my opinion from an offensive aspect. From a defensive aspect, it's not that great, but then you have the Fire Water Grass core of Mega Blastoise, Victini, and Tangrowth. That's perfect. And to help this team out in this division versus all special attackers, you have a Blissey. And that is pretty darn good to have on the team. Blissey Mega Blastoise works so well in Draft League format. And together with Tangrowth, you really have a good defensive core with those 3 that could be brought every single week. And they can do the same thing every single week, but it would still be very hard to break them down thanks to just having that humongous amount of bulk. This team can be both physical and special. It really depends on what months he brings and what months he lets stay at home. The worst thing about this team, I would have to say, is once again the speeds. I'm no fan of the speed tier, so you have a lot of Pokemon cramped together. You have it very spread out, but you have nothing between 78 and 90. And the Pokemon at 90 is Lucario, that doesn't really need that much speed to begin with because it has so much priority. So then you actually go from 78 to 97 with Haxorus, and Haxorus has Dragon Dance, so you don't really go to 97 either. You go from 78 to 100 and go to Victini. And that is a very big jump. because sure, okay, you can still count the Lucario as base 19 and Hexorus as base 97, but since Hexorus more or less will run Scarf or Dragonlance every single time and Lucario has so much priority, it doesn't really matter that they are 1997 when you get speed tiers, because your opponent will be prepared for those two sets. And that makes the rest of the speed tiers pretty lackluster. Even if you have a good distribution, if you just look at it stat-wise, if you look at Pokemon that has each speed stat, I don't agree with them at all. You have dual fighting types in Machamp and Lucario, where I feel like Lucario is the better option every single time. I don't think Machamp fits on this team at all. Maybe as a defensive check, I can see an Assaultist Machamp doing pretty well. But then you really have to make sure that you can actually wish it up and make sure that it survives for a long period of time, so that you can actually still stand tall, take hits when you need it to take hits. Same goes for some other things in this team. Like I don't know why you have Vikavolt when you have Jolteon. You can have gone with a much better bug type in my opinion in tier 4. I don't agree on having a Azumarill either as your fairy type, but as I said, some guys like Azumarill. I'm not one of them, so I'm very, very biased towards Azumarill. I despise it. It's not the way to put it. I think it's bad as hell. It's terrible in my opinion. So if I ever draft Azumarill, you can put me into a mental hospital. I'm just gonna say it right away. But this is the teams that we have, and every single team has its ups and downs in a much bigger way than any other team in the other divisions. Like this division can literally go any way, thanks to the amount of loop-sided teams in the division. And if the coaches don't adjust to that, they will have a very hard time against the other divisions and other coaches that they will face during the season. So overall, it's an interesting team. It's 4 interesting teams, but it's impossible for me to predict who will go through. If I would have to go with my heart, I would say Shade and SV, the Houston Galatians and Salt Lake City Buises will go through to the playoffs, and the Chicago Tornadoes and Louisville Crowbats will miss out on the playoffs. So thank you for watching this video, guys. I have one more to record today and upload, and I will see you after that. Well, I will see you in that video, and then I will see you later on in the week.